She thought it was the end. Then a cowboy found her. The wind howled across the empty prairie as dark clouds rolled over the mountains. Eleanor Hayes stumbled along the dusty trail, her torn boots barely holding together. Blood trickled from a cut above her eye, and every breath sent pain through her ribs. 3 days earlier, she had owned a small ranch inherited from her late father. It wasn't much, but it was everything she had. Then a ruthless landowner named Victor Kane arrived with armed men, demanding she sell the property. When Eleanor refused, they beat her, burned part of her barn, and left her on a deserted road, believing she wouldn't survive. Now, exhausted and barely conscious, she collapsed into the dirt. "I guess, this is where my story ends," she whispered before everything faded to black. Miles away, Jacob Walker guided his horse home after delivering supplies to a nearby town. Known as a quiet cowboy who preferred solitude, Jacob had spent years avoiding trouble after losing his wife and young son to illness. As his horse slowed, Jacob noticed something lying beside the trail. A woman. He jumped down and rushed over. She was barely breathing. Without hesitation, he carefully lifted her onto his horse and carried her back to his isolated ranch. For 2 days Eleanor drifted in and out of consciousness. When she finally opened her eyes, warm sunlight poured through a wooden window. A fire crackled nearby. "You made it," Jacob said softly while handing her a cup of water. She tried to sit but winced in pain. "Easy," he smiled. "Your body has been through enough." Eleanor looked around the small cabin. "Why did you save me?" Jacob stared into the fire. "Because someone should have." Weeks passed. Jacob treated her injuries, cooked meals, and never asked questions she wasn't ready to answer. Slowly, Eleanor regained her strength. One evening she finally told him everything. About her father. About the ranch. About Victor Kane. About losing everything. Jacob listened without interrupting. When she finished, silence filled the room. Then he simply said, "We're getting your ranch back." Eleanor laughed bitterly. "It's impossible." Jacob stood. "No. It's difficult." The next morning they rode into town. Jacob visited old friends, retired sheriffs, honest ranchers, blacksmiths, and veterans who remembered the kindness Eleanor's father had shown them years before. One by one, people agreed to help. Victor Kane had bullied the entire county for years. Everyone had simply been too afraid to stand against him. Until now. Meanwhile, Victor believed Eleanor was dead. He had already begun fencing off her ranch. He celebrated with expensive whiskey while boasting that nobody could stop him. Then one of his workers came running. "Boss." Victor frowned. "What?" "She's alive." The glass slipped from Victor's hand. The following morning dozens of horses appeared on the horizon. Jacob rode at the front. Beside him was Eleanor. Behind them came nearly 40 ranchers. Victor's men reached for their rifles. But when they realized they were badly outnumbered, many lowered their weapons. Jacob stopped his horse. "This land belongs to Eleanor Hayes." Victor laughed. "You have no proof." Eleanor calmly pulled an old leather folder from her saddlebag. Inside were the original land deeds her father had hidden years before. She had remembered their location while recovering. Victor's smile disappeared. Just then, Sheriff Daniel Brooks and his deputies arrived. They had spent days investigating Victor after several ranchers came forward with evidence of threats, theft, arson, and assault. "You are under arrest," the sheriff announced. Victor tried to run. Jacob urged his horse forward, cutting him off before he could escape. Within moments, the deputies placed Victor in handcuffs. For the first time in years, the county was free from his intimidation. The months that followed brought new beginnings. Neighbors volunteered to rebuild Eleanor's ranch. Carpenters repaired the barn. Blacksmiths fixed broken tools. Families donated cattle and horses. Children planted flowers outside the farmhouse. The ranch slowly came back to life. One evening Eleanor stood on her porch watching the sunset. "I couldn't have done this without you," she told Jacob. He smiled. "You did the hard part. I only reminded people that courage spreads." As time passed, their friendship grew into something deeper. Neither rushed it. Both had known loss. Both carried scars. But together, they discovered that healing isn't about forgetting the past, it's about finding the strength to build something better. Exactly 1 year after the day Jacob found Eleanor beside the road, the town gathered for a celebration at the restored ranch. Music filled the air. Children laughed. Neighbors shared food. The place that had once been silent and broken was now alive with hope. Jacob walked Eleanor to the hill overlooking the fields. He reached into his pocket and held out a small silver ring. "I never believed life would give me another chance," he said quietly. "But then I found you." Tears filled Eleanor's eyes. "And you reminded me that my story wasn't over." She smiled. "Yes." The crowd below erupted into cheers as the two embraced beneath the golden evening sky. Sometimes heroes don't wear badges. Sometimes they wear dusty boots, ride tired horses, and appear exactly when hope seems lost. Eleanor had believed the lonely road would be the final chapter of her life. Instead, it became the place where a new beginning quietly found her.